Don't overpay in real estate commissions when you don't have to. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home in Kansas City, call Neil at 395 Realty or visit www.list4lesskc.com. That's listforlesskc.com. With Neil's commission model, you only pay 1% in seller's agent fees at closing, while still receiving the full representation and service you expect. Make your next move with Neil. Call 913-744-6368 or email Neil at listforlesskc.com. That's Neil, Neil, at list4lesskc.com.
You know who made it.
We went through sort of a progression of, okay, let's take the money that we made on the first batch and let's use all of it to make twice as many socks the next batch. And then we were able to sell those. I said, okay, let's do it again. Let's take all that money and throw it back in and make double the batch again. So we started to get up to where the sock factory was, they were no longer doing us a favor to make a batch, but it was like, okay, yeah, this is a good order now.
Welcome to Life of a Founder. Our goal here is to give you an inside look at the experiences of small business owners who have started, operated, and grown a business from the ground up. We strongly believe that there's no better way to learn than by listening to the stories of others. So whether you're already an entrepreneur or dreaming of becoming one in the future, we are sure you'll gain valuable insights from every episode. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the man behind the mic, our host, Matthew Sumter.
Hello, welcome to Life of a Founder. My name is Matthew Sumter, and today I'm here with Alex Thrasher, the founder of MudGear. Before we really get started in our conversation, though, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who's thinking about starting their own business?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, good question. I think doing any type of new business really requires you to look at the reasons why you're doing it and making sure that you're going into it for the right reasons, especially if you've never run a business before. A lot of people have ideas about what it's going to be like or fantasies about what being an entrepreneur is all about. And I think the most dangerous ones are folks who think they want to get into it for the celebrity aspect or the glitz and the glory. And the truth is, there's a lot of work, and there's very little glamour. There's very little glory. If it's something where you're trying to get into this to be in the mix or part of that entrepreneurial scene, I would say go work for a startup or something like that. But the best reason to get into business or to found something is because you really believe in a product or a service that needs to exist in the world, and you think you're the right person to do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, it sounds like you're describing influencers. If you want to go out and become an Instagram model, maybe. But,
yeah. Well, I've heard that's a pretty hard road too. You look at the top 1% that make it, and then all the others that are making $300 a month.
Maybe.
But there are definitely some out there that have cracked the code.
Well, why don't we start by telling me a little bit about your business, where it's at right now, and kind of maybe where you started.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I have a few brands, but really the primary brand is MudGear. And, MudGear is a sports apparel brand. We make socks, shirts, tops and bottoms. We actually just came out with our first shoe, last week. But our market, our customers are people who are into, outdoor sports and, extreme endurance style things. We really came out of the obstacle course racing world with the Spartan Race community, Tough Mudder community, Savage Race, Rugged Maniac, all of those guys, and quickly paired up with the F3 group, which is an outdoor men's boot camp group. And most of our products have gone down that line of durable outdoor sports apparel that you could wear in the gym. But it's made for outside and made to be, tough enough for the elements and crawling on the ground and going into the barbed wire and all the stuff that, is a part of that obstacle course race world. We are based in, Charlotte, North Carolina, but we have a warehouse that we work with in Mooresville. It's about an hour north of here. Okay. But outside of that, for the most part, we're a fairly virtual company. Our team is, remote. Everyone mainly works from home, and then we have a few contractors and agencies that we work with. I mean, it's a direct to customer e-commerce model. where we make our products and we sell through our own website. We sell through Amazon. So I mentioned a few brands other than MudGear. I have a second brand, which was an acquisition back in 2019 called Seat Shield. So seatshield.com has its own website. It's on Amazon, and it's a product of removable waterproof car seat covers. Yeah. It's a good complement for MudGear business because, we get sweaty and dirty in those events. And this is a product-based business that just put it over your car seat and you stop sweating on your car seats on the way home from any kind of activity or dirty job. And then the last one, another direct-to-consumer e-commerce business started recently is one called Grip Socks, GRIPSOCKS. So again, back in the socks world, and this is mainly a soccer and Pilates style sock that has extra grip, silicone grip on the bottom. A hot little trend in the sock world right now that we're excited to play in with our site at gripsocks.com. So while MudGear is really, the main brand, it's a small little portfolio of e-commerce brands that we own and operate.
Yeah, very cool. It sounds like you're building a little empire here. How long ago did you start this? And were you completely on your own, or did you work with a partner or anyone?
Yeah, this was definitely on my own. It was just me for a good long while. This was in 2012, right when the obstacle course racing started to take off. I think that was some of the first few years of Spartan Race. Some of the guys I was working out with here in Charlotte, we started to run those together and just, got the bug. It did several, that first, 12, 18 months. And it was during those races that I started to have the business idea that, this is not only a cool race, but it's a strong community. Like the people love to hang out after the race in the festival area and have a beer, talk about the race. And, it's like for a full month afterwards, you're telling your war stories about, who did what and passed who along the way and all of that. So what I noticed was that the larger apparel brands that were sponsoring those types of races, back in those days, you had Reebok sponsoring the Spartan Race, and Tough Mudder was sponsored by Under Armour, but they weren't really making any products for the sport. It was just the same socks or shirts that you might wear to the gym or play basketball. Yeah, that's great for the mud run as well. But what you would see when you ran them is that at the end of those races, there was a pile of socks and shoes and sometimes shirts that people were just throwing away or discarding because they'd been torn to shreds during the event. So I said, well, the combination of those things, there's not a product really built for this sport. And there's no one addressing this community and speaking to them as a different sports community. That leaves the door open for a grassroots brand that could really understand the community and be a part of it and make products that are a little bit better than anything that's out there. And I was, ready to tackle that. So that's when, the rare things happened where I had a good idea and the right opportunity to go after it at the same time. And just got very excited about trying to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of makes me think about, I'm involved in the CrossFit community as well. And that was kind of a similar, there's a lot of brands popped up out of CrossFit just because they were making specific items for that community where there weren't a lot of the bigger brands doing that.
Yeah.
How did you actually get started? I guess, you had the idea and you realized, but what were your first steps?
Yeah. Well, I love talking to other, entrepreneurs and they often ask me that as well. And so one of the top pieces of advice I give to aspiring, entrepreneurs is to focus first on the product. Everything you do from that point on will be based upon how good of a job you do creating, your first product and then all the products after that. Sort of going back to what I said originally, there has to be a reason why your business exists in the world and a reason why your product exists in the world. It's got to be, for some reason better than what's out there. If you're only relying on marketing, you're basically peddling snake oil and at some point your marketing is going to run out or change or somebody will be able to market better than you. So, I love to be able to base a business on a product quality that's a little bit differentiated and speaks better to the market, has some features about it that are best in class. And then that's going to drive all sorts of stuff, to include word of mouth marketing that, is the best. You can't even pay for that, but it's the best marketing out there. So that's what I did. I focused first on the product and I picked out among, many things we could have made. I picked out socks as what I saw as the best opportunity to get started. And it had a lot of benefits I didn't even realize until a lot later. But what I, saw in those races is that the socks people were wearing were falling all around their ankles. They weren't holding their elasticity. And worse than that were the injuries that I was seeing. And this was, one of my good buddies in particular who loved to do that rope climb and the rope traverse, where, instead of using like a leg over leg method, he would drag his leg across the rope and just give himself the worst rope burn. And it would be, 3 weeks later, he'd have a huge scab on the back of his leg. So I said, well, that's my key right there. I'm going to look for, a tall compression sock that's going to allow you to run distances, but also have the strength to withstand not only being soaked in water, but to be, drug across a rope or some, nylon or burlap and not fall apart. So that was, the product requirement that I started out with. And I had, designs in my head. I had designs of what I'd like this to look like. I knew it needed to be primarily black because in the mud, not many other colors are going to look great after going through a race like that. So I started shopping it with some sock factories, and I'm fortunate here in North Carolina that we're, one of the last places in the country that has a number of sock factories, between here and Morganton and Hickory, towards the mountains, and connected with several. And so it was knocking on a lot of doors. I got a lot of no's, but I walked into the factory that I'm actually still working with today, and had the good fortune of meeting with a young guy who was one of the sons of the owner who had just come back to work for the family business. And this was literally maybe his second or third day on the job. They had sent him off to work for a couple of big brands, sports brands, to cut his teeth and, get some outside experience for the family. But he had then, after 5 or 6 years, returned back to work for the family factory and also start some in-house brands there. So we hit it off. He'd actually run a couple of these obstacle course races himself. He knew what I was talking about. He knew the strength of the community. And maybe he was just, young enough, or he was just new enough in the business to give me the time of day and start working with me on a prototype. So we went through some design samples, got a few things made that I was able to put on my feet and take out and see how they performed. Gave them to some of my buddies that were running. And after a few iterations, we had, come in on something that we thought was really, special and better than what was available in the running stores. And then everything that we did, since then has been based on starting with a good, strong, solid first product. So yeah, that's sort of to bring it full circle. It's all about, starting with the product and having it be something that needs to exist in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Finding that need and being able to meet that. When you were getting those from these factories, was it about just levels of production? You were too small, or was it about they couldn't do what you needed, or what was the pushback you were getting there?
Yeah, probably all of those, multiple times from different places. But yeah, that's one thing you'll run into with factories is that, they make their money on volume. And if they're going to work with a really small startup or someone with an idea, it's a cost to them. And I bet for every one person like me that they work with, there's probably 5 or 10 that they decide to give a chance like that, and it doesn't go anywhere. And I guess they're playing sort of the investment game of trying to pick out, who's serious, who's going to follow this through. And some of those will work, some of them won't. But I guess your job walking in there is to not convince them that you're going to have you're not going to be their biggest customer next year, but you're worth taking a bet on, and you're serious about making this happen. They probably have a small investment budget to use to try out new concepts like you might have, and you have to sell them on the business case as much, on yourself as well, to be able to at least get a test run of your idea.
So when I think of rucking or, just kind of in high quality socks, I think of like Darn Tough as obviously one of the big leaders. What would differentiate your first product from something like that? Quality wise, how would you say there's a differentiation?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know a lot of this back then, but I've now been around it long enough to know that we're using the exact same machines as those guys. And if the machines are the same and the operators are well trained, it comes down to the quality of the yarns that you're using, and it comes down to the design, the construction of the sock itself. So, the design and the construction really needs to be tailored toward the activity that you're intending it to be used for. So we have rucking socks that are made specifically for rucking, and we put merino wool in the high friction areas around the toe box and the heel, and we make it a little bit tighter sock around the ankle. They're going to be going long miles, and sometimes you need some more support and strength down there. And that's a little bit different from like a running sock, which is, ventilation on the tops, and things become more important there. So, there is a little bit more art than science behind some of the design aspect of what you're going to put into your sock and how you're going to construct it to meet the specific needs of the customer base you're going after. But, they make a fantastic sock too. I'm not going to tell you that, we're doing something light years ahead of what they're doing. We've got, our own specific combination of the yarns we like to use and the way we like to put them together that we think is the best out there, but they make a great sock as well.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little more about the business kind of in general or as a whole. You mentioned that you are essentially virtual. How many employees do you employ currently?
Yep. We've got 14 on the team. And then outside of that, we use a number of agencies. We use some consultants on various parts of the business. So in-house, we handle our own customer service. We do our own product development. We do our own inventory planning, velocity management. We do a lot of custom orders as well. We'll make custom socks for clients. We do custom t-shirts and sports apparel for larger groups like the F3 group and the Females in Action group. We've worked with a lot of Spartan teams and things like that. So we have some folks that are focused on custom as well, and some of our wholesale business. All of that internal. Outside the team, over time we've tried a lot of different marketing agencies, agencies that might specialize in things like pay-per-click for Google or Facebook Meta ads. Those in particular we're now doing in-house, but we've got some Amazon agency help as well, and Amazon advertising. Those are things that some groups can specialize in that I have found to be better as a consulting or external to the team.
So you found advertising to pay off. I mean, do you think word of mouth obviously is the best advertisement, but how has advertising helped you out?
Oh, yeah, tremendously. And as an e-commerce company, we are very reliant on online advertising. So early on, Google ads were the biggest traffic generator for us. And in those days, my goal in life was to be found anytime anybody went online and started to search for, what's the best thing to wear for a Spartan race, or what kind of socks should I wear for Tough Mudder. We wanted to be the top of the search results for that. So we were trying to be there organically. We were creating a lot of content that would help us rank for those types of terms. And then we also were buying pay-per-click advertising through there as well. So that was a lot of our early traffic was just trying to be found in the places where people were searching. And it wasn't long, into it where Amazon started to become, a more popular search engine for products than Google. So people would start their search on Amazon instead of Google. So that led us to invest in being optimized and being able to be found through Amazon organically as well as through Amazon ads, and start to understand that ecosystem as well, probably starting around 2014, 2015.
You said you started out with the sock and you kind of did that small. How much did you personally have to kind of put in to get started? Was there a big investment up front? Did you get any loans? Yeah, well,
it definitely felt big. It was, to really get everything up and going, I would put it around 10,000. We did an initial run of socks that got us up to at least a factory minimum. That was a pretty big bet. And then outside of that, you've got some administrative business expenses just to get up and going. Making a filing for your LLC with the state, buying some accounting software, getting your logo and your brand trademarked, those types of things. So in the very beginning, though, I would say, in order to put just the shell of infrastructure around making the business real, and then making that first little batch of inventory to see how it went, I was probably in about $10,000.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, that's not that bad for the kind of business you're running right now. It seems like a lot to get started, and obviously it is, but for a product-based business, that's probably not horrible.
Yeah, it's all baby steps, and it was definitely helpful that we just started with one product.
Yeah.
So I think I've seen that kill other brands, is just going too broad, too fat, too quickly. But we started with one main product, which is that tall compression sock. And it wasn't until, so we made our first batch, and I, held my breath to see if we could sell these things. Gave some away as samples, but we started to see some traffic come in from Google. We started to have some folks hit the website, and we were trying to get on, podcasts and any other type of advertising that was specific to obstacle racing that we could. But yeah, once it started to look like, oh my gosh, we're going to sell through this first batch, we need to start making our second. We went through sort of a progression of, okay, let's take the money that we made on the first batch and let's use all of it to make twice as many socks the next batch, but just the same ones. And then we were able to sell those. I said, okay, let's do it again. Let's take all that money and throw it back in and make, double the batch again. So we started to get up to where the sock factory was, they were no longer doing us a favor to make a batch, but it was like, okay, yeah, this is a good order now. Yeah. And so it wasn't until around that point that we started to, look at options for, all right, what if we did a second color, or what if we did a second height and things like that. But yeah, finding that first good product and going deep on that before you go wide with all kinds of variations was really important for us.
Yeah, that's some good advice. How hands-on are you currently? Is there kind of a hierarchical structure of management created now, or are you kind of the boss and everyone reports to you? How's that set up right now?
So, hands-on is a weird term for me, just thinking about it, because I don't think it's possible that I could be any more hands-on than I am. And it's, maybe at this point starting to be a growth inhibitor. I definitely have hired some fantastic people, and I try to, get out of their way and let them do their thing. But even as I've done that, there's always something else new popping up that, I have to dive deep on and figure out, or, decide that, all right, this Google Ads agency isn't doing the job for us, and I'm going to take that back over for a little while, and then I'm in the weeds for a while till we get it figured out, and, back to stable, and then turn it over to someone else. But yeah, I think some people have an idea that in a small business, especially, that maybe there's a way to, just be the puppet master and have everything work. And maybe there are some folks who figured out a way to make that happen. But what I've seen in reality, for myself and other business owners that I know that are in sort of the e-commerce and the product and the brand space, is that your hands are going to be really dirty, and you're going to have to work hard and know your products, know your customers. And, you may get to a point one day where you can oversee things, but at this point, I don't see that light at the end of the tunnel yet. I'm full, hands on all the time, and expect to be that way for a while.
All right. You talked about financially being able to double your orders. Have you been able to bootstrap it all the way along, or have you ever had to do any loans or financing to help you grow, or taken on any kind of partnerships for that?
Yeah, there's a lot in that question. So, and a lot of pieces of advice I would pull out. So I was fortunate that during that time I had a day job, right? I was a full-time employee as a career worker, and this was something that I started off as a side hustle and tried to, get some traction on it, from the early going. And so one thing that I would advise to folks that have that, luxury of having a day job is, if you can figure out how to, pursue this as a side hustle or an interest while you maintain that and do a good job at that, that's going to really be to your benefit. It's super, super hard to support yourself on a new business until you can get it to, sort of a critical velocity that would allow you to pay yourself what you need to, replace your income or step away from the day job. So yeah, in those early days when we were just taking all the money from the first batch and throwing it in the next one, I was able to do that because I was still at a day job. And that was just super, super helpful. And, my wife works as well, so we got kind of a double safety net there, to allow that. So yeah, we are 100% owners, my wife and I. We don't have any outside investors. We do have an EIDL loan that we picked up from the SBA during the pandemic, which helped us stay afloat when all the races in the world were closed down for a couple of years. But that's our only, debt, with the business. And, I was very thankful for that, during that time. That's a whole nother, story, sort of fighting through, all your sales going, south all at once. Yeah, there's another point in there I'll remember in a minute, but mainly the advice that if you can start it as a side hustle, there's some real benefits to that to get you to the point where you can then cut over. I remember now what it was. Not only having that safety net of sort of your daytime job. But even though you're doing that, I also, the other side of the coin is I also think it's really important to create the discipline early of paying yourself. And I think that's a trap you can get into when you start that way. If you have a day job and you can put all your money into investment business, that's going to be the fastest fuel for your business, is using all of your sales revenue as new inventory or marketing. You won't be able to grow that fast any other time. But the trap is a lot of people do that to the point where they never start paying themselves, and then their ability to jump over and start to do it full time, just gets further and further away if you don't start that from the beginning as a discipline.
Yeah, then that was going to be part of one of my questions is when you did start paying yourself, and then how long it took you to get to a point where you were able to step away from another job.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't work currently anywhere else?
Yeah. So my path was, I call it a 4-year overnight success, to quit my job. So it took about, exactly 4 years to get to the point that we made that leap. And I say my wife and I were tracking this all along the way. And, the way we were looking at it is, all right, well, we know that if you leave your career job, it's going to be a step back financially. And we don't think that you have to get this, your business to the point you can completely replace your current salary and benefits and all those things. But, what is that number? Like, what's the floor at which we would be comfortable taking a risk to, switch me over to that full time, and then build it up from there, knowing that this might not be an opportunity that we have again. And, that while there's risk to it, there could be great reward in being able to put full focus on it. So we had a lot of conversations about it, and we're both very analytical. We both sort of spreadsheeted the whole thing and said, okay, well, we're willing to take a cut, back to here. If you can build a business up where you can pay yourself X, that'll be the time we really say, yeah, let's move you over to this full time. And the scary part was when we actually got to that number, that X, and then we said, okay, this is when we said we were going to do this.
now we actually have to.
Yeah, we still think this is the right thing to do. But, the fun part was, as scary as it was to do it, when I did make the change, I would say that was one of the second fastest periods of growth, that we had in the company. Like, I think that next 6 months to 8 months, we had about 30% growth that I attribute to just being able to, not split my focus between two different places and finally be able to, put it on the business entirely.
Okay. Very cool. So you talked a little bit about some of your sponsorships or partnerships that you have with different organizations, races. How did you come across those, or have they all been different? Did you go out to them? Did they organically? I mean, how did that come about?
At least in my industry, the sponsorships and the partnerships, they tend to be, fairly, mutually beneficial in that, a race event is, enhanced by having partners involved, and it just adds to the whole atmosphere. You've got sponsored banners up, or there's, drinks at the finish line, or there's the ability for those sponsors to help promote the race and encourage registrations as well. And then the brand, on my side, we get to be associated with a great event. We get to have some brand awareness with those participants. So it's kind of a natural fit, at least in my industry, to do race event sponsorships when we can do that. There's always more events than we can afford to do. So you have to prioritize and pick which ones are the best match for the brand, will give you the best reach and audience. A lot of them do come to us. We get, a lot of inbound requests just coming into our website and the email box about, hey, we got this awesome event, this, rucking club, this obstacle race, all sorts of things. This CrossFit box is doing a competition. We'd love for you guys to be involved. So we try to do as much as we can, and without, if we did all of them, we'd run out of money immediately. So, we look to do, more and more of the ones that we can that are grassroots. We have tried, huge sponsorships this year. We're the official sock of Spartan Race and Tough Mudder. We've been partners with the Obstacle Course Racing World Championships. Some bigger, ones that are out there. Just personally, I enjoy working with more of the grassroots level, events. those folks they're building those sports communities right there locally, and helping them out. It's always, very, rewarding to work with the smaller events and keep things more on a grassroots level. Over the years, those have been some of my favorites.
Talking more about the products a little bit, you talked about your supplier with socks. As you've moved into other things, the shirts, the shoes, have you had to go farther outside, or have you even had to go out of the country to find suppliers, or are you U.S. based for all your supplies? How's that? Yeah,
good question. So we have a U.S. Factory supply chain preference. We always try to look there first, and there's patriotic reasons for that, but there's also just logistical benefits of not having to ship your goods across the ocean and not having delays at port and the customs fees that are involved in those things. Our supply chain is a lot simpler for the products that we make in the U.S. There are things that we found are just not feasible to make here at a price that the customers want to buy it for. So you take some of our apparel items, our shoes as another example. We're not able to find U.S. factory partners that could, produce to the quality that we wanted at the price that we wanted. So, it's that, three-legged stool of you can have it fast, you can have it good quality, or you can have it cheap, but you have to pick two, and get the right mix for your customer base. So today, we do have a lot of our manufacturing is done in the U.S. We do have a little bit out of India. We have a decent amount out of Vietnam, maybe one or two things out of China, but we've also done a little bit in Latin America, but not currently doing that. But sort of got a education along the way in some of the freight forwarding and shipping and customs and global manufacturing supply chain. Been able to visit a lot of those factories and see what they're like, and they're not like what you think. I think especially the factories used outside of the country, I've been super surprised at just the professionalism in those places, and they make you take off your shoes before you walk in because they're spotless, which is a little different from some of the places I've visited here. But we've been lucky to have some great factory partners, regardless of where in the world that we've ended up for those products.
This was part 1 of my conversation with Alex Thrasher. Check back next week for part 2. There's a lot more to his story.
Thanks for tuning in to Life of a Founder. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes. And if you have any friends or family members who would enjoy the show, please share the link with them. We truly believe that small businesses are the lifeblood of our communities, so we encourage you to take that first step and start your journey toward business ownership.